Super Bowl X was an American football game between the National Football Conference (NFC) champion Dallas Cowboys and the American Football Conference (AFC) champion Pittsburgh Steelers to decide the National Football League (NFL) champion for the 1975 season. The Steelers defeated the Cowboys by the score of 21-17 to win their second consecutive Super Bowl. They were the third team to win back-to-back Super Bowls. The Miami Dolphins won Super Bowls VII and VIII, and the Green Bay Packers won Super Bowls I and II. It was also the first Super Bowl in which both participating teams had previously won a Super Bowl, as the Steelers were the defending champions and the Cowboys had won Super Bowl VI. The game was played at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, on January 18, 1976, one of the first major national events of the United States Bicentennial year. Both the pre-game and a halftime show celebrated the bicentennial, while players on both teams wore special patches on their jerseys with the bicentennial logo. Super Bowl X featured a contrast of styles between the Steelers and the Cowboys, which were, at the time, the two most popular teams in the league. The Steelers, dominating teams with their steel curtain defense and running game, finished the regular season with a league-best 12-2 record and defeated the Baltimore Colts and the Oakland Raiders in the playoffs. The Cowboys, with their offense and flex defense, became the first NFC wild-card team to advance to the Super Bowl after posting a 10-4 regular season record and postseason victories over the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Rams, trailing 10-7 in the fourth quarter of Super Bowl X. The Steelers rallied to score 14 unanswered points, including a 64-yard touchdown reception by Pittsburgh wide receiver Lynn Swann. The Cowboys cut the score 21-17 late in the game with wide receiver Percy Howard's 34-yard touchdown reception, but Pittsburgh safety Glenn Edwards halted Dallas' rally with an end-zone interception as time expired. Swann, who caught 4 passes for a Super Bowl record 161 yards and 1 touchdown, became the first wide receiver to be named the Super Bowl's most valuable player. Background: the NFL awarded Super Bowl X to Miami on April 3, 1973 at the owners' meetings held in Scottsdale, Arizona. Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers became the first official number 1 seed to reach the Super Bowl. Playoff seeds were instituted in 1975. The Steelers finished the regular season with a league-best 12-2 record, dominating opponents with their steel curtain defense and powerful running game. Fullback Franco Harris ranked second in the league with 1,246 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns, while also catching 28 passes for 214 yards and another touchdown. Halfback Rocky Bleier had 528 rushing yards, and fullback John "Frenchie" Fuqua added 285 yards and 18 receptions. Still, the Steelers had a fine passing attack led by quarterback Terry Bradshaw. Bradshaw threw for 2,055 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, while rushing for 210 yards and 3 touchdowns. One reason why Bradshaw's numbers were much improved from the previous season was the emergence of wide receivers Lynn Swann and John Stallworth. Both saw limited playing time in the previous season, but became significant contributors. Swann caught a team-leading 49 passes for 781 yards and 11 touchdowns. Stallworth only had 20 receptions, but he had an average of 21.2 yards per catch, recording a total of 423 reception yards. The Steelers' steel curtain defense dominated the league, ranking third in fewest yards allowed, 4,019, and sending 8 of their 11 starters to the Pro Bowl. defensive lineman Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood, future Hall of Fame linebackers Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, Andy Russell, the team's third starting linebacker, future Hall of Fame defensive back Mel Blount, and safeties Glenn Edwards and Mike Wagner. Green made the Pro Bowl despite missing 6 games with injuries. Ham and Lambert had the best seasons of their careers, while Blount led the league with 11 interceptions and was named the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year. Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys advanced to the third Super Bowl in team history with their rather high-tech offense and flex defense. Quarterback Roger Staubach had a solid season, passing for 2,666 yards and 17 touchdowns, while also rushing for 310 yards. Wide receiver Drew Pearson led the team with 46 receptions for 822 yards and 8 touchdowns. Wide receiver Golden Richards and tight end Gene Fugit were also reliable targets in the Cowboys' passing game, combining for 59 receptions and 939 receiving yards. Like the Steelers, Dallas was a run-based team. Fullback Robert Newhouse was the leading rusher with 930 yards, and also caught 34 passes for 274 yards. Halfback Doug Dennison contributed 388 yards. Perhaps the most talented player in the backfield was halfback Preston Pearson, no relation to receiver Drew Pearson, who signed on the team as a free agent after being cut by the Steelers in the preseason. Preston rushed for 509 yards, caught 27 passes for 351 yards, and added another 391 yards returning kickoffs. Preston had been especially effective in the playoffs, where he caught 12 passes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and was extremely eager to increase his numbers in the Super Bowl against the team that let him go. Up front, the offensive line was led by All-Pro right tackle Rayfield Wright. The Cowboys' flex defense was anchored by lineman Harvey Martin and Ed Too Tall Jones. Linebacker Leroy Jordan led the team with 6 interceptions, while linebacker D. Louis was an effective weapon pass rushing. The starting players in Dallas' defensive secondary: future Hall of Fame cornerback Mel Renfro, cornerback Mark Washington, and safeties Charlie Waters and Pro Bowler Cliff Harris, combined for 12 interceptions. Even though the Cowboys finished in second place in the NFC East with a 10-4 record, they qualified for the playoffs as the NFC's wild-card team. During that time, only one wild-card team from each conference entered the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys became the first NFC wild-card team to reach the Super Bowl playoffs. Dallas went on to defeat the Minnesota Vikings 17-14, with a 50-yard touchdown pass from Staubach to Drew Pearson with less than a minute to play in what was called the Hail Mary pass. They went on to crush the Los Angeles Rams 37-7 in the NFC Championship game. As a result, the Cowboys became the first ever wild card team to advance to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, even though Pittsburgh's offense lost a total of 12 turnovers in their 2 playoff games, the Steelers only gave up a combined total of 20 points in their victories over the Baltimore Colts 28-10, and the Oakland Raiders 16-10. Super Bowl pregame news and notes. Coming into Super Bowl X, most sports writers and fans expected that Swann would not play. He had suffered a severe concussion in the AFC Championship game against the Raiders that forced him to spend 2 days in a hospital. If he did play, many assumed he would just be used as a decoy to draw coverage away from the other receivers. Throughout the week leading up to the Super Bowl, Swann was unable to participate in several team practices and was limited to only a minor workout in them. However, A few days before the game, he received a verbal challenge from Dallas safety Cliff Harris, who stated, "I'm not going to hurt anyone intentionally, but getting hit again while he's running a pass route must be in the back of Swan's mind. I know it would be in the back of my mind." Quote, Swan responded, "I'm still not 100%. I value my health, but I've had no dizzy spells." I read what Harris said. "He was trying to intimidate me. He said I'd be afraid out there. He needn't worry. He doesn't know Lynn Swan. He can't scare me at the team. I said to myself, the hell with it. I'm gonna play. Sure, I thought about the possibility of being re-injured, but it's like being thrown by a horse. You have to get up and ride again immediately, or you may be scared the rest of your life." Quote, Super Bowl X would be the final NFL officiating assignment for veteran referee Norm Schachter, who also served as referee for Super Bowl I and Super Bowl V. Schachter worked as an officiating supervisor and instant replay official following his on-field retirement. Television, radio and entertainment. CBS televised the game in the United States with play-by-play announcer Pat Summerall calling his first Super Bowl in that role, and color commentator Tom Brookshire. Toward the end of the game, Hank Stram took over for Brookshire, who had left the booth to head down to the locker room area to conduct the post-game interviews with the winning team. 2 days after the Super Bowl, Stram was hired as coach of the New Orleans Saints, interrupting his broadcasting career for 2 seasons. On radio, Vern Lundquist and Al Whisker announced the game for the Dallas Cowboys radio network, and Jack Fleming and Myron Cope called the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers radio network. Ed Ingles and Jim Kelly called the game nationally for CBS Radio. Hosting television coverage was the NFL Today crew of Brent Musburger, Irv Cross and Phyllis George. During this game, CBS would begin using Jack Tromby's Horizontal Hold as the theme music that would be used the following season for the NFL Today pregame show between 1976 and 1980 in its original form, with a remake for 1981 followed by updates for 1984 and 1989 before its retirement. The overall theme of the Super Bowl entertainment was to celebrate the United States Bicentennial. Each Cowboys and Steelers player wore a special patch with the Bicentennial logo on the jerseys. The performance event group Up With People performed during both the pre-game festivities and the halftime show titled 200 Years and Just a Baby, a tribute to America's bicentennial. Up With People dancers portrayed various American historical figures along with a rendition of Steve Goodman's City of New Orleans. Singer Tom Sullivan sang the national anthem. Scenes for the 1977 suspense film Black Sunday, about a fictional terrorist attack on the Super Bowl via the Goodyear blimp, were filmed during the game. This was the last Super Bowl to kick off as early as 2:00 p.m. Est, thereby allowing a finish time before commencement of many of the nation's evening church services. This was the first Super Bowl where the play clock was visible to teams and spectators. Visible play clocks were mandated by NFL rules beginning with the 1976 season. Game summary: the Steelers won their second straight Super Bowl, largely through the plays by Swan and by stopping a rally by the Cowboys late in the fourth quarter. Officials did not call a single penalty on the Steelers during the game, while the Cowboys were called for only 2 penalties for 20 yards. On the opening kickoff, the Cowboys ran a reverse where rookie linebacker Thomas Hollywood Henderson took a handoff from Preston Pearson and returned the ball a Super Bowl record 48 yards before kicker Roy Gerela forced him out of bounds at the Steelers' 44-yard line. Gerela suffered badly bruised ribs that would affect his kicking performance all afternoon. On the first play of the game, Steelers defensive lineman L.C. Greenwood sacked Cowboys quarterback Roger Staubach, forcing him to fumble. Although Dallas recovered the fumble, they eventually were forced to punt. The sack was a foreshadow of things to come for Staubach, who was sacked 7 times on the day. Pittsburgh managed to get 1 first down and advance to the Dallas 40-yard line, but then they too were forced to punt. Steelers punter Bobby Walden fumbled the snap. Walden managed to recover his own fumble, but Dallas took over on the Steelers' 29-yard line. On the very next play, Staubach threw a 29-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Drew Pearson, taking a 7-0 lead. The score was the first touchdown permitted in the first quarter by the Steelers' defense in 1975. Instead of trying to immediately tie the game on a long passing play, the Steelers ran the ball on the first 4 plays of their ensuing possession, and then quarterback Terry Bradshaw completed a 32-yard pass to wide receiver Lynn Swann to reach the Cowboys' 16-yard line. Swann soared over the outstretched reach of defensive back Mark Washington before tight-roping the sideline to make the reception. 2 running plays further advanced the ball to the 7-yard line. Then on 3rd down and 1, the Steelers managed to fool the Cowboys. Pittsburgh brought in 2 tight ends, which usually signals a running play. After the snap, tight end Randy Grossman faked a block to the inside as if it were a running play, but then ran a pass route into the end zone, and Bradshaw threw the ball to him for a touchdown, tying the game 7-7. This marked the first Super Bowl that both teams scored in the first quarter. Dallas responded on the next drive, advancing the ball 51 yards, all rushing, 30 of them on 5 carries from fullback Robert Newhouse, before incurring a 3rd down false start penalty, and scoring on kicker Tony Fritsch's 36-yard field goal to take a 10-7 lead early in the second quarter. The 51 rushing yards the Cowboys amassed on the drive tripled what the Minnesota Vikings gained against Pittsburgh for all of Super Bowl IX. The Steelers subsequently advanced to the Cowboys' 36-yard line on their next possession, but on 4th down and 2, Bradshaw's pass was broken up by Dallas safety Cliff Harris. Later in the period, Dallas drove to the Steelers' 20-yard line, but in 3 plays, the Cowboys lost 25 yards. On 1st down, Newhouse was tackled for a 3-yard loss by linebacker Andy Russell. Then Greenwood sacked Staubach for a 12-yard loss. And on 3rd down, Staubach was sacked again, this time for a 10-yard loss by defensive end Dwight White. The sacks pushed Dallas out of field goal range and they were forced to punt. The Steelers' offense got the ball back their own 6-yard line with 3:47 left in the half. On the drive, Bradshaw completed a 53-yard pass to Swann to advance the ball to the Cowboys' 37-yard line. Swann's catch has become one of the most memorable acrobatic catches in Super Bowl history. On the very next play, Bradshaw just missed connections with Swann at the Dallas 6. Pittsburgh drove to the 19-yard line after the 2-minute warning, but the drive stalled there and ended with no points after Gerela missed a 36-yard field goal attempt with 22 seconds remaining in the period. Early in the 3rd quarter, Pittsburgh got a great scoring opportunity when defensive back J.T. Thomas intercepted a pass from Staubach and returned it 35 yards to the Cowboys' 25-yard line. But once again the Steelers failed to score as the Dallas defense kept Pittsburgh out of the end zone and Gerela missed his 2nd field goal, a 33-yard attempt. After the miss, Harris mockingly patted Gerela on his helmet and thanked him for helping Dallas out, but was immediately thrown to the ground by Steeler linebacker Jack Lambert. Lambert could have been ejected from the game for defending his teammate, but the officials decided to allow him to remain. The third quarter was completely scoreless and the Cowboys maintained their 10-7 lead going into the final period. But early in the fourth quarter, Dallas punter Mitch Hoops was forced to punt from inside his own goal line. As Hoops stepped up to make the kick, Steelers running back Reggie Harrison broke through the line and blocked the punt. The ball went through the end zone for a safety, cutting the Dallas lead to 10-9. It was the second safety recorded in Super Bowl history, the first occurring a year earlier when White downed Minnesota's Fran Tarkenton on a fumble recovery in the end zone. Then Steelers running back Mike Collier returned the free kick 25 yards to the Cowboys' 45-yard line. Dallas halted the ensuing drive at the 20-yard line. But this time Jerry successfully kicked a 36-yard field goal to give Pittsburgh their first lead of the game, 12-10. Then on the first play of the Cowboys' next drive, Steelers defensive back Mike Wagner intercepted a pass from Staubach and returned it 19 yards to the Dallas 7-yard line. Wagner's interception came off the same play Dallas used to score their opening touchdown. Instead of surveying the middle of the field, Wagner watched Pearson and recognized the pattern. Staubach later said, "It was our bread and butter play all season long. It was the first time it didn't work." The Cowboys' defense again managed to prevent a touchdown, but Jerry kicked an 18-yard field goal to increase the Steelers' lead to 15-10. The Steelers forced a punt and regained possession of the ball on their own 30-yard line with 4:25 left in the final period, giving them a chance to either increase the lead or run out the clock to win the game. But after 2 plays, the Steelers found themselves facing 3rd down and 6 on their own 36-yard line. Assuming that the Cowboys would be expecting a short pass or a run, Bradshaw decided to try a long pass and told Swann in the huddle to run a deep post pattern. As Bradshaw dropped back to pass, Harris and linebacker D. Lewis both blitzed in an attempt to sack him, but Bradshaw managed to dodge Lewis and throw the ball just before being leveled by Harris and lineman Larry Cole, who landed a helmet-to-helmet hit on Bradshaw. Swann then caught the ball at the 5-yard line and ran into the end zone for a 64-yard touchdown completion. Bradshaw never did see Swann's catch of the touchdown since Cole's hit to Bradshaw's helmet knocked him out of the game with a head injury. It was only after he was assisted to the locker room that he was told what happened. After play resumed, Jerry missed the extra point attempt, but the Steelers now had a 21-10 lead with 3:02 left in the game, and the Cowboys needed 2 touchdowns to come back. Staubach then led his team 80 yards in 5 plays on the ensuing drive, scoring on a 34-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Percy Howard and cutting their deficit to 21-17. Howard's touchdown reception was the only catch of his NFL career. He was not mentioned by name by John Facenda in the highlight package produced by NFL Films. After Jerry Mullins recovered Dallas' onside kick attempt, the Steelers then tried to run out the clock on the next drive with 4 straight running plays, but the Cowboys' defense stopped them on 4th down at their 39-yard line, giving Dallas one more chance to win. Some questioned why Noel would elect to go for it on 4th down, but, as later explained by NFL Films, his entire kicking game had been suspect all game long, with Jerry missing an extra point and 2 field goals while Walden fumbled a snap on a punt, and nearly had 2 punts blocked. Jerry's problems may have begun on the opening kickoff when he was forced to make a touchdown-saving tackle on Hollywood Henderson. With 1:22 left in the game, Staubach started out the drive with an 11-yard scramble to midfield, and then followed it up with a 12-yard completion to Preston Pearson at the Steelers' 38-yard line. Pearson inexplicably ran towards the middle rather than running out of bounds to stop the clock. On the next play, Staubach couldn't handle a low snap but managed to recover the ball and throw it downfield for an incompletion. On second down with 12 seconds left, he threw a pass intended for Howard in the end zone, but the ball bounced off Howard's helmet and a Hail Mary replay was not to be. Had Howard positioned himself inches back from his position in the end zone as the ball came down, he would have had a better opportunity to catch the ball and write himself into Cowboy folklore. Then on third down, Staubach once again tried to complete a pass to Howard in the end zone, but the ball was tipped by Wagner into the arms of safety Glenn Edwards for an interception as time expired, sealing Pittsburgh's victory. Bradshaw finished the game with 9 out of 19 pass completions for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns, with no interceptions. He also added another 16 yards rushing the ball. Staubach completed 15 out of 24 passes for 204 yards and 2 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. He also rushed for 22 yards on 5 carries, but was sacked 7 times. Steelers running back Franco Harris was the leading rusher of the game with 82 rushing yards, and also caught a pass for 26 yards. Newhouse was the Cowboys' top rusher with 56 yards, and caught 2 passes for 12 yards. Greenwood recorded a Super Bowl record for sacks, but it has gone unrecognized since the NFL didn't officially record sacks until 1982. Aftermath. The game was remembered for being the most exciting of the first 10 Super Bowl games. Swan's heroics and Lambert's 14 tackles and throwdown of Cliff Harris are the indelible images from the game. After being benched to start the 1974 campaign and being booed for most of his first 4 seasons in Pittsburgh, Bradshaw became the first quarterback to throw 2 game-winning touchdown passes in Super Bowl competition. The Steelers' bid for 3 consecutive championships ended in a 24-7 loss to the Oakland Raiders in the 1976 AFC Championship game after a season that saw Pittsburgh's defense shut out 5 opponents and allow only 28 points in a 9-game span. The loss to Pittsburgh, coupled with an early playoff exit in 1976, largely influenced the Cowboys to draft Tony Dorsett in the 1977 draft to help infuse life into Dallas' offense. Dorsett helped lead Dallas to a Super Bowl XII victory over the Denver Broncos, who defeated the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs that year. Pittsburgh and Dallas would battle in another thriller in Super Bowl XIII, also played in Miami. The result was the same, as the Steelers prevailed 35-31. But Super Bowl X was the game that began the rivalry between the two storied franchises. The Cowboys gained a measure of revenge by defeating the Steelers 27-17 in Super Bowl XXX, following the 1995 season. This was the final football game to be played on artificial turf, specifically poly-turf, at the Orange Bowl. The surface in 1976 reverted to natural grass, and remained so until the stadium's closure in 2007. Turf was first installed at the Orange Bowl in 1970, but players complained often of the slickness of the surfaces, and fields became discolored due to the intense sunshine common to South Florida. Box score. Final statistics. Sources: NFL.com. Super Bowl X. Super Bowl X Play Finder Pitt. Super Bowl X Play Finder Dal. Statistical comparison. Individual statistics. 1 completions, attempts 2 carries 3 long gain 4 receptions 5 times targeted. Record set. The following records were set in Super Bowl X, according to the official NFL.com box score, the 2016 NFL Record and Fact Book, and the Pro Football Reference.com game summary. Some records have to meet NFL minimum number of attempts to be recognized. The minimums are shown in parenthesis. This category includes rushing, receiving, interception returns, punt returns, kickoff returns, and fumble returns. Sacks and official statistics since Super Bowl XVII by the NFL. Sacks are listed as tackled attempting to pass in the official NFL box score for Super Bowl X. Starting lineups. Source: Hall of Fame. Officials: Referee: Norm Schachter, number 56, third Super Bowl. IV. Umpire: Joe Connell, number 57, second Super Bowl. VIII. Headlinesman: Leo Miles, number 35, second Super Bowl. VIII. Line Judge: Jack Fett, number 39, third Super Bowl. VIII. Field Judge: Bill O'Brien, number 83, first Super Bowl. Back Judge: Stan Javi, number 29, third Super Bowl. VIII. This was the first Super Bowl in which the referee wore a wireless microphone to announce penalties and other rulings to the audience in the stadium, those listening on radio and those watching on television. The idea was pioneered by Cowboys GM Tex Schramm. Norm Schachter retired following this game and became an officiating supervisor. Note: a 7-official system was not used until 1978. Notes: Super Bowl official website. 2006 NFL Record and Fact Book. Time Inc. Home Entertainment. ISBN 1-933405325. Total Football 2. The official encyclopedia of the National Football League. HarperCollins. ISBN 1-933405325. The official NFL encyclopedia of pro football. NAL Books. ISBN 0-453-00431-8. The Sporting News Complete Super Bowl Book 1995. ISBN 0-89204-523-X. http www.profootballreference.com. Large online database of NFL data and statistics. Super Bowl play-by-plays from USA Today. Last access September 28, 2005. All-time Super Bowl odds from the Sports Network. Last accessed October 16, 2005. Gil Brandt's Reflections on the Game.